And we have now 3 writers. Maybe I will introduce the writers and then you come once in a I introduce them all and then you can introduce yourself later when it's your turn. We have about 1 hour, and so you have 20 minutes each writer, and if you want you can leave some minutes for questions as well, so 15 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that. First we have Polina, who is a journalist, science fiction writer, poet and translator based in Helsinki, and her poems appear in the collection Struktura sna, Structure of Dream, that was published in St. Petersburg in 2008. And she writes poetry and essays in Russian and Finnish. And then after that we will have Manal al-Sheikh, who is an Iraqi writer residing currently in Norway, and she holds a bachelor in English Arabic translation from the Faculty of Arts University in Iraq. And she has been working in local and Arabic press as a freelance journalist and have published creative and literary articles and text in many Iraqi, Arab and European newspapers and magazines. And Manal will also take part in the panel later in the afternoon. And then the last one is Inger Mariaikio, who is, let's see how you wanted to present yourself. A Sami poet, filmmaker and journalist. She's an author of several poetry collections and children's books, but you also made several documentary films. And although you said that you will end making documentary films, we do hope that you continue doing that, and also music videos and stuff like that. Anyway, so let's start with Polina, and then you, after that Manal, and then Ima.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I beg pardon if I read for too long, because I tried to count the time, but maybe I have written too a long speech for this day. So, dear organizers, dear audience, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for the possibility to present my statements during this seminar. I'm not very good to improvise in English, so I better read them because it's more safe. And I also have to add that when listening to the panels and to the workshops, I noticed that in fact my speech, which was made a few days before, resonates very much with what was said here, what was spoken here, which was, to the other hand, it was consolating, but to the other hand, it was a bit kind of surprised that, well, it was a good and a bad surprise at the same time, that we're sharing the same experiences and we are noticing the same challenges in the field. So I move on. And I add a few words about myself. My work is to put the right words in the right order, which I do in the field of fiction, poetry, journalism and translation. And thus I'm a multifunctional author, still working within one vast field, fenced with a language. But I would like to start with a question I have got in the end of the last year. A friend of mine, a prominent actress able to do her work in both Finnish and Russian, invited me to join a drama project as a translator of Finnish poetry into Russian language. She was going to apply for the financial support from the Arts Promotional Center of Finland, so her question to me was, can you consider yourself as a professional artist? In fact, that wasn't a surprise, so I had to check my CV to assure my partner I am an artist. So, it wasn't about my identity or self-esteem. The question was about my formal status. How established I am in Finland, in Finnish field of arts to have chance of getting the financial support as a member of a working group of artists. Luckily, I fit the criteria, so we have got the requested support. Before moving on with my personal experiences, I share one more example with you. A day before, I was chatting with another friend of mine, a visual artist focused on graphic arts, who moved to Finland from Russia a couple of years ago on the grounds of international protection as a political refugee. The friend of mine expressed a complaint. She tried to get involved into the professional community and possibly get some orders for graphic works, sending her portfolio and motivation letters to different places with no feedback or simple response. Until now, she had participated in few small exhibitions, but she cannot figure out how she can break into the field. And yes, she is not speaking Finnish yet. I consider visual arts to be somehow a lighter case comparing to literature. In most cases, you can understand the visual narrative as is. So the challenge for the visual artist is gaining the visibility in the community. It takes time, yes, but it is possible. As I have already mentioned, my job is to put right words in the right order, and my field is fenced with the language I write in. So, when writing in Russian in Finland, I am fully dependent on the translator. Being also a translator myself, I understand far too well all the challenges of this creative tandem. When I've got my first support from the Art Promotional Center in 2009 for completing a novel in Russian, the translator was to get his part. The idea was to make sample translations to present the product to the Finnish publishing houses. Though, finding the translator itself appeared to be difficult. One I contacted refused, so I had to contact the other one. And now I have to confess you something. I'm still keeping the ready sample translations in my table. No publisher has ever seen them. Why? No, it's not about the quality. It's about the realistic perspective. Hardly any publishing house would be interested in the two-part fantasy novel telling a story of a political repressions carried out by a queen in a fantasy kingdom written in Russian. But maybe one day. How do we see the person writing in some other language than Finnish, and how do we get him involved in the community and get visibility? Does he get critics to be seriously interested in him, even if his works are translated into Finnish or Swedish? Would the cultural journalist be willing to analyze his work or to review his work within the broader discourse than just safe and narrow multicultural sector? Is he equally treated comparing to the colleagues using Finnish or Swedish? Here I would like to refer to the experience of the Sivuvalo-project, which Pata was many times presenting as a poet on the events organized by this marvelous team. Discussing with Roxana Chrysologa, who is presenting here, I heard her mentioning that the readings organized by Sivuvalo, which are properly planned, directed and rehearsed, and mostly have a translation into Finnish, do not get the attention of the mainstream media despite all the marketing. This is very sad, because the quality of this joint artistic production is stunningly high, and this is not only my opinion. So, what to do? As it came to me, I am right in the process of making my choice. This is going to be a pretty radical solution, almost don't try it at home style, because I wait the possibility to write in another language along with my mother tongue. And I'm starting my practice of writing in Finnish by rewriting my own poems and participating in a couple of other projects. One can call this surrendering, the other a braveness. The solution is not that unique, though. In Finland, we have got a bunch of writers of that kind, including, for example, Sasha Salmela, writing in Finnish, as well as Zinaida Linden, who is also present here, writing in Swedish, thus both using other language than mother tongue, Slovakian and Russian. Both are established writers at this moment, neither they are related to any kind of minority group getting a special treating. But maybe Zinaida argues with me, I don't know. They naturally belong to the national literature as they are. So, do we have to suppose that the writer, working in non-dominant languages, are locked into the kind of the multicultural reservation and sentenced to deal with the issues related to their otherness? Surely they, we are all experts in that, but what about dealing with something else? Is it okay to expect me to write, it is okay to expect me to write about Russians and Finns, but what if I write about dwarfs, dogs, or whatever in Russian? And if so, is the breakout to the broader field possible only by changing the working language? I really would not like to think so, despite it sometimes seems to be like that. Before I continue with some proposals or recommendations, I'll try to take a quick look into the broader perspective. We are all facing the world moving to a state of total mobility, thus meaning the mobility of people as well as the mobility of technical equipment and social phenomena. The mobility influences the means of artistic expression and demands more and more transparency and easy access to content from the communication networks. We are getting better instant translation services, and we are also getting used to the new ways of using language. Also, more and more languages become transnational, thus parting from the national cultural base and changing grounds to subcultural base formed by diaspora or some other group. This completely relates to the Russian language spoken by millions all over the world. On the other hand, these conditions make the multilingual writing possible. On the other hand, the concept of the national literature tightly related to the national culture is melting and transforming to the language literature, bonded to the language, not to the land. How this applies to my experience and expectations? First, I see and feel myself as a Finnish writer whose language palette is just different, but whose creative interests are lying first within Finland and its culture, second within the Russian-speaker audience all over the world. I'm definitely not the one preserving my cultural heritage in a can by simple replication of the literary forms and contents typical for Russian literature. I'm also not striving to reach the audience in Russia, though I understand that one may set this goal to himself, and he is in his right to do that. In relation to this, I was requested to highlight a bit the situation with the Russian speakers writers organizations in Finland. So, there are 3 or 4 of them in Finland, but mostly they are orientated on the preservation of the traditions of literature, such as rhyme poetry, classic genres, and so on. There is still existing a trend of preserving the culture and the language in the multicultural discourse. The still existing trend of preserving the culture and the language in the multicultural discourse is not serving the needs of general culture development, though it plays its positive role, giving one a base and a starting point in his individual development. So, let us not only preserve what we have got by default due to being born and growing up in a certain place. Let us make fertile grounds for the development. Could we figure out some guidelines for that? In fact, yes. For a couple of years, I was witnessing more or less successful attempts aiming to involve people like me to the broader culture field. Finally, I throw some examples. In last year, the national broadcasting company Yle made an attempt to found a group of multicultural script writers to get some move to the TV series production. I was one of the participants. Though the attempt itself failed, the reasons stay unknown, it gave some perspective for moving forward individually. The Sivuvalo-project I have mentioned already is constantly organizing various activities to present new faces to the audience. At the moment, this project seems to be the most sustainable of the kind. Sivuvalo is also starting the publishing activities in order to publish bilingual poetry books. Hopefully, the critics would find them. In May, I myself organize a small workshop on writing in the other languages and mother tongue, taking place in the framework of Occupy Festival held in Kaisa. I aim to encourage people to try their limits of self-expression and get some new experience in their personal creative practice. Let's see how well it goes. And we are not experiencing a lack of writers working in other languages than Finnish or Swedish. What is lacking is the broader awareness of the phenomena, which is kind of stuck in the discourse of immigrant or multicultural art. To change this, we need a more active collaboration and internal exchange between different groups within the field of Finnish culture, to put people in touch supporting the projects and initiatives where the writer using non-dominant language is not the exhibit or object illustrating the multiculturalism, but the equal actor carrying his part of responsibility for the result of the collective effort. So thank you for attention.
Any quick questions, comments? Yeah.
My question is, it's quite an interesting, aspect when writing in Russian and then trying to write in Finnish. And my question is, when you switch to Finnish, how do you feel? Do you feel a different person or what? What are your experiences?
Well, I continue my marketing. If you are interested, you are welcome to those small workshops. But for myself, I was thinking for a very long term, how do I feel? And I have to describe it as feeling kind of disabled, but trying all the resources which I still have got with this other language. With all respect to Finnish language, which I love, so because I have my emotional bond to it. And actually this is an emotional bond which gives courage to try to use the other language than mother tongue.
Okay, thank you. And feeling a little bit Finnish too, probably.
Oh, well, this relates to the case.
Hello, thank you for the speech.
Thank you.
You touched a lot of main points, I think, and it was really quite interesting to hear you talking about these binaries of non-Finnish writers, immigrant writers, also being stuck in these binaries and binaries of sustaining the tradition of traditional literature in Russian or other languages, and you proposed to somehow for another approach to kind of beyond these binaries, to go beyond these binaries, and I'm interested. I mean, Sivuvalo still in the margin, and we've talked earlier about the possibility, the non-existing possibility of joining the writers' union. So, do you think, what is your own statement on that, while taking into consideration that you also try to go beyond the binaries that are set by these unions to preserve some kind of language traditions and also literature traditions?
Well, as it comes to unions, I have to admit that I am the anarchist. So I'm not, at least now, I'm not even considering joining the unions, because I feel this to be also a responsibility and a part of identity. If you are going to the union, this means you share the ideals of this union and the concept of this union. But as it comes to Sivuvalo, I mostly think that Sivuvalo is not, the Sivuvalo is in the margin just because it's in the beginning of the process. But I do see very healthy processes going on, and I may try to think together with the team of Sivuvalo how we can make them more effective. What I see as a good way is to try to support the collaboration between two, like between translator and the author, and also between two authors. For example, in small projects, when they are making together some writing project, for example, in Finnish, but if one is not speaking Finnish as mother tongue, so the second version can be done in the second language. I myself is involved in one of the kind right now, and so it's a writing project. I'm not now spoiling it, but I do think of this possibility that I have to translate the result into Russian, because then it will exist in two fields. I mean, this transparency is needed here, and I guess we do not, what is the problem now is we do not have the structure which can on a regular basis support this kind of collaboration between the author and the mediator, I mean the author and the translator, because it's not possible to demand everyone to try to change language or to add some new language to the palette. It's not the way for everyone, and we are all different. I also do not like when people are encouraged to be active, social, go everywhere, because one can do that. I have learned to do that. I'm not like that generally, but I've learned to do that. But some cannot do that. His job is to write. So there should be one who opens the door. And I guess we have like to grow the structures which help to open the door. For example, I myself can facilitate when writing these applications, because I have done a number of them for different purposes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, we have to remember that all the institutions that get government funding have to be inclusive. So in that sense, everybody that gets government funding had to be there for people who are writing. Okay, Manal.